Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I know that many of you have already seen this news and watched the videos concerning this case, but I have yet to pass actual judgment over it, so I thought I'd go through that with you today and maybe shed some light on a few things that maybe you haven't thought of or didn't know about.
What's the state's position regarding sentencing?
Your Honor, I'll stand up. The state respectfully requests that the court sentence Ms. Franke to consecutive prison terms for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse.
Now, I know a lot of you probably have seen and heard the horrific nature of the abuse several times over, so I'm sorry for that, but we need to keep it in the forefront of everybody's minds because it is a very important part of this case, exactly what happened, and just so it never happens again.
This sentence was agreed to by Ms. Franke in her plea agreement and is also recommended by adult probation and parole. She committed horrible acts of child abuse. From May to August in 2023, Ms. Franke and her business partner held her 2 children, ages 9 and 11, turning 12, in a concentration camp-like setting. The children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment. They were isolated from others and were hidden when people came to visit the house where the children and the defendants were staying. The children were forced to do physical tasks like carrying loaded boxes up and down stairs and wall sits or sitting against a wall without a chair or stool for hours at a time.
Just remember all these words that are being said when Ruby starts spouting what she's going to say, right? Remember what has been said, what she has put her own kids through when you listen to her.
They were also forced to do manual labor outdoors in the extreme summer heat, at times without shoes or socks. They were forced to stand outside on a cement patio in the summer heat for hours and even days at a time. They were beaten, and the 12-year-old was regularly bound hand and foot after he attempted to run away in mid-July. Both children had extensive physical injuries from the abuse that required hospitalization when they were found. The injuries from the binding to the 12-year-old are particularly awful. In addition to physical abuse, the children were emotionally abused to the extent that each believed, to some degree, that they deserved what was being done to them. Had the older of the children not had the courage to run away and ask a neighbor to call the police, heaven only knows how much longer he could have survived in that situation.
The worst thing there is that summary of everything that happened to them wasn't as bad as actually happened to them. They left some things out, like being held underwater and not being allowed to breathe. You know, it just, some of the things that were also in the initial report were left out on this.
After being caught, Ms. Franke has shown considerable remorse, as evidenced by agreeing to serve consecutive prison terms and being willing to cooperate with the state against Ms. Hildebrandt. However, given the severity of the abuse she inflicted, consecutive terms are appropriate in this case. As the court's aware, Section 76-3401 lays out factors the court takes into account in determining whether consecutive or concurrent sentences should be imposed. Those factors are the gravity and circumstances of the offense, the number of victims, and the history, character, and rehabilitative needs of the defendant. As agreed to in the plea agreement and as recommended by adult probation and parole, consecutive sentences are appropriate. This is due to the severity of the abuse to both victims. It could be argued that Ms. Franke should receive a lesser sentence than Ms. Hildebrandt because of her remorse and willingness to cooperate with the state. However, the Board of Pardons and Parole will have broad latitude and will be able to take those facts into account when it determines how long each of the co-defendants will remain incarcerated.
So I don't have a clue how long they will actually receive. I mean, a lot of outlets are saying, oh, they've been sentenced for 4 to 30 years, but we knew that before this court came into session anyway, right? But Will Ruby get lesser sentence than Jodie? I think so. I mean, personally, I think probably she deserves less. I'm going to get a little bit of hate for that, but I still think that Ruby is the danger and she is the mastermind behind it, but that doesn't absolve Ruby of what she did, because it's her children. She brought her kids into this situation, brought them into harm's way, and carried out the acts, and she knew what she was doing. I don't care what she says.
In conclusion, we respectfully request that the court go along with what was agreed to in the plea agreement and is recommended by probation and parole, and impose consecutive sentences.
Thank you. Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Windward?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. In my few comments this morning, and in the comments my client wishes to make in a few minutes, we are not suggesting, nor are we asking that the court deviate from the stipulated sentence contained in the written plea agreement. I want the court to know that through introspection and reflection, Ruby Franke has become a serious student of her own actions. In the very early days of my involvement with Ruby, she was somewhat defensive, and she was still very much indoctrinated into a philosophy that was destructive.
This really infuriates me with their lawyer, right? Because he's saying, oh yeah, well, when I first met her, she was very defensive over the things that she did, right? But now she's come to terms with it and she's agreeing that she did wrong and she's unraveling the indoctrination. But what he's not accepting is that she had a level of insanity before Ruby came along, okay? Ruby just took what was already there and kind of brought it to the forefront, but Ruby already had this thing going on and she was already causing harm to her kids as it was.
Fortunately, Ruby came to the stark realization of the errors in her thinking patterns and subsequent actions. To say that she was horrified by this realization would be to put it mildly.
So by that, I'm assuming there that Ruby, you know, she's very much admitting what she did was wrong all these years. Not just the Jodie situation, but, you know, all the years like these ones.
Go get dressed for football.
You're gonna have to go find your shorts. Oh, did you see the socks you threw at the side of the garden? And you are not going anywhere unless you pick up your junk. You've got crap strewn all around. Now, so you see, now I'm using bad language. That's how bad of a mood I'm in. You get your socks picked up and don't you leave your stuff out anymore.
Where?
Right over there. Run and go pick them up. And then give me 10 push-ups. Put them in your pockets so you can take them down to the hamper and drop and give me 10.
1.
Put your hands straight out. They're in. They're not supposed to be out. Shape your hands forward. There you go. 1, 2. Down further. Bring your butt down.
Ooh.
I'm only going to say it one more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat. You're going to lose the privilege to eat. You don't need food. My kids are literally starving.
Not under any circumstance go into the kitchen.
Hopefully nobody gives her food, and once you hit 99 pounds, you don't need any suckers anymore. You're too old. You're too big.
There's nothing to eat?
Yeah, I need to go to the store. Stop. Just stop. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Look at me. No. No, you look at me. Look at Mama. If you cut one more thing in my house,
We're chopping its head off.
I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
So, Mr. Lawyer, I put it to you that your client is actually, in fact, not sorry, because I have never heard her apologise or have any remorse, in fact, for the years of torture that she actually inflicted upon her own children, such as that little clip there. And side note, guys, how on earth did YouTube not step in, right? All of that was shown there were snippets of their day, but also a form of not just physical but emotional abuse, right? I don't know how YouTube can't just come out with a statement.
I have marveled at how quickly Ruby abandoned her defensive stance and moved toward her total acceptance of her actions and to her sentence today. So far, she has used her time in jail to unwrap the layers upon layers of deceit and deception foisted upon her over the last 4 years by an unscrupulous individual.
Yes, but what about the time before the last 4 years, right? You know, the time before Jodie came along, you're not addressing that. And I get it, right? This case is not about that level of abuse, right? This case is about the current abuse. I know people kind of can't differentiate the two, right? But that's what the court case is for. It's for the abuse that happened between Jodie and Ruby on the kids, right? But this lawyer is saying, oh, well, you know, Ruby has left all that behind her and she's unraveling all the deceit and everything and she's a changed woman. But what he's not acknowledging is the fact that she caused all this harm to her kids prior to Jodie coming along.
Ruby realizes that she still has work to do in shedding those thinking errors and to reestablish a better and correct pattern of thinking and behavior. Ruby realizes that changing her thinking, reestablishing relationships, and healing are not simple or easy tasks. However, she is committed to doing that work. I would like the court to know that Ruby Franke is a delightful, respectful, and responsible person.
Oh, she's had a personality transplant, has she, since she's been in jail? Has she undergone some sort of a lobotomy? Because she was never those things before Jodie came along. She was never those things, right? She was never a delightful woman. She was never a lovely, beautiful person. She was never anything that this lawyer seems to think that she was, even though he's only met her a few months ago. So I'm not quite sure how he's getting that information, really. I mean, has he even looked through the clips upon clips upon clips? They're available on the internet, Mr. Lawyer. They are, if you want to have a look at them.
She is open to feedback and addressing the consequences of her actions head on, and now ready to address your honor and accept your judgment.
Now, I've heard some utter shit in my time, right? But that is up there with the worst of it. Now, I get lawyers, they are paid to try and put a positive spin on things, right? But to outright lie, everybody knows what Ruby's like. It's not like she can hide it. It's been online for years. They had their channel for over 10 years, right? They've made, by Ruby's own admission, millions out of their kids, right? So she can't be that nice a person in the first place to have exploited her kids to that extent. But also the level of, you know, the abuse that she inflicted on her kids that she actually put onto her YouTube channel. Yeah, she's not that nice, really, honestly.
Thank you, Judge Walton.
Thank you. Ms. Franke has a statement she'd like to make.
She does.
Okay, everybody ready for it? This is absolute gold. If you haven't watched it yet, you're in for an absolute treat. Never before seen this level.
Thank you. Judge Walt.
You don't have to bend down.
Okay. Thank you. I would like to make a statement without any intent to change my stipulated sentence. For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me. I was led to believe that this world was an evil place, filled with cops who control, hospitals that injure, government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abused.
Children who need abused. Did Jodie say that in those particular words? Anyway, that whole speech there about she was under the impression that police officers were there to do this, and schools were there to do that, and this was there to do, basically a paranoia situation where you think everybody's out to get you. It sounds very much like, without trying to be bring lightheartedness into this, it sounds very much like an Andrew Tate / Chris Ingham situation, right? I'm just saying that is the type of thing that Chris is kind of believing right now, and apparently it's a form of brainwashing.
My choice to believe and behave this paranoia culminated into criminal activity for which I stand before you today ready to take accountability.
And yet, Ruby, you are not taking accountability at all, are you? Because what you have just said there is that for the last few years, you have been under the tutelage of Jody, who has taught you that all these things are bad and to make you paranoid about stuff like that, and then to abuse your kids. But what you're not acknowledging at all is the fact that you were doing those things, maybe to a lesser degree, but you were doing those things before Jody came along.
Jody Hildebrandt was never my business partner, nor was I ever employed by her. I have never received wages from her or connections.
So you were doing all this out of the goodness of your own heart. Did you not think that was a little bit weird, So what she's saying here is that she didn't receive any money for working with Jody, right? She didn't receive any wages. She didn't receive any money at all from the company. So I don't really know what she was doing. She was just out to spread her message, wasn't she, I guess?
Jody was employed as my son's counselor in 2019, and in 2020 I paid her to be my mentor. It is important to me to demonstrate my remorse and regret without blame. I take full accountability for my choices, and it is my preference that I serve a prison sentence. Thank you to the officers in Santa Clara and the Ivan City Police, Nick Howman, Brian Palufo, Cy Pitkevit, Mike Pondoyo in Tobler, John Ward, Dee Lewis, and Chief Flowers. You were the angels who came and saved my children.
She's thanking the police department, everybody. She's not just thanking the police department, she's thanking the police individually. The police officers individually for coming and saving her children, right? She couldn't have done that on her own, no.
I especially want to thank Detective Jay Bate.
I especially want to thank Detective Jay Bate. Right, yeah, it sounded very much like an award acceptance speech, possibly the Oscars, which is ironic, isn't it? Because she needs those Oscars in order to get her point across, really, doesn't she?
She plucked me out of a situation I didn't know how to get out of. And the moment she handcuffed me was the moment I gained my freedom.
And I see exactly what you're doing here. I see right through it. I see that you are saying you didn't know how to get out of the situation, but, it was so... But you came along, detective. You were like an angel. You flew in, swooped down, grabbed me and took me away. I really wanted to get away, but I really didn't know how to get away from this situation.
You were not the controlling ones. I was. Thank you to the medical staff at Intermountain Hospital. Your skill, tenderness, and professionalism helped to heal my children. Jody and I inflicted the injuries, not the hospital.
Thank you to the hospital now, because, they are actually there to help people. I know you can thank the hospital, by the way, but what she's saying here is that she had been indoctrinated to think that the hospitals caused pain on people. But in actual fact, she's learning now that the hospital came and saved her children. So she's happy for that, I guess.
Thank you to DCFS, the Children's Justice Center, Judge Basil, and other key adults. You've gathered my children under your wing and offered them love, compassion, encouragement. You were not the ones who were doing the brainwashing. Thank you to my Bishop Tom Hawks and my state president Jim Nilsson for reminding me of the Lord's love for the lost. So much pain and suffering would have been avoided had I followed and heeded your counsel. I was the one who was deceived, not you. Thank you to the Washington County Prosecutor's Office, Ryan Sham, the legal assistants and discovery clerks. Eric Clark, you exemplified to me how justice and mercy are meant to coexist. My charges are just. They offer safety to my family, accountability to the public, and they did show mercy to me.
So I'm sure it's been pointed out many times by many different people so far that this is very much like an award acceptance speech. I want to thank you, and I want to thank you. I especially want to thank you because, you know, it's so amazing, and it's exactly just like that. It's just really, really weird that she would go through a list of people she wants to thank because she's up for child abuse, everybody.
Thank you to my attorney Lamar Winward and his staff. I would not be where I am today without them.
Thank you. I'm sure they're thinking, yeah, thanks. Without your lawyers, you wouldn't be stood there right now being faced with child abuse charges. It's not their fault, I don't think. Is it?
Thank you to Randy Kester for your limitless energy in healing my family.
Randy Kester, if you haven't been following, is Kevin's attorney. So she's thanking her husband, her estranged husband now, is attorney.
My dear friends, Pam and Roy, I'm so sorry for letting you down. Because of your association with me, your innocence was called into question.
Now she's apologising to her friend Pam, that is Pam Bodger, who was a co-person listed as the CEO of Connections, right? But I find this a bit odd because the way I understand it is that Pam has a very long association with Jodie. Now, if anybody's listened to Jessie Hildebrandt, which is Jodie's niece, she says that Pam was around the time that Jessie was being abused by Jodie, and Pam would turn a blind eye at that point. So it's not like Pam is completely innocent in all this, I don't think.
My mother-in-law, father-in-law, Kevin's family, my cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and neighbors, you all saw the warning signs long before I did, and you did what you could. You wanted to help, but I pushed you away. My mother and father, I have been utterly wretched to you. You have offered me unconditional love, and for that I have offered you unconditional contempt. My siblings and their spouses, because of my decision to roll around in a pigsty, I have dragged your families through the mud in public. Yet, when I desired to return as the prodigal sister, unlike the prodigal's brother in the Bible, you synced step with my parents and ran out to greet me.
So she's saying there that, like, the nieces, nephews, cousins, brothers, sisters, and all that lot that she listed have, in fact, greeted her and accepted her back. Is that what she's saying? Because that's the way I'm understanding it.
Your capacity to love is unprecedented. Kevin, my husband of more than 23 years, you are the love of my life. I'm so sorry to leave to you to finish what we both started together. The ending of our marriage is a tragedy. It really wrapped around my heart. And now I'll never be able to undo. those little chicks. You were part of me. I was the mama duck who was consistently watering you to safety.
I disagree, actually. She's saying that she was the mama duck who was consistently waddling her 6 little chicks to safety, right? But she wasn't. She was consistently, ushering them into danger. That's what she was doing. She was putting them in danger all the time. But, she's going with her narrative, obviously.
I can see now. Over the past 4 years, I was in a deep undercurrent that led us to danger. I remember launching into darkness knowingly. I was so disoriented that I believed dark was light and light was wrong. I would do anything in this world for you. My willingness to sacrifice all for you was masterfully manipulated into something very ugly. I took from you all that was soft and safe and good. I took from you your mother. How terrifying this must have been for you. I'll never stop crying. You're hurting your tender souls. You're so precious to me. I'm sorry.
So see there where she's apologising to her kids for what she did, and she may well have some remorse. I actually feel like she could do, actually, to be honest, but don't come at me for that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to rewind a few years, because I don't feel like she understands what she's been putting everybody through for years prior to this whole situation, right? So if we look back now, all these news stories here are from around about 3 or 4 years ago, right? And they all centre around the scandals about the abuse that's been caught on camera and that the kids have been involved in. This was a big scandal, right? That was all over the news at the time. And this isn't obviously the only thing that they've done, but this actually was happening. So this is an article from the Daily Mail. Yes, I know it's the Daily Mail, but at least it's legitimate, kind of, Anyway, it says YouTuber parents are accused of child abuse after their son said he slept on a beanbag for months as punishment for pranking his sibling, but they insist it was all just a misunderstanding. So, Ruby and Kevin Frankie have long let viewers into their home with the YouTube channel 8 Passengers, which has 2.46 million subscribers. In a recent video, 15-year-old Chad admitted he spent 7 months sleeping on a beanbag as punishment for bullying his brother. So, YouTubers and TikTokers accused a couple of child abuse and cited a past video in which a 6-year-old went to school without lunch. So you see where all this was going on, right? And this article was in fact printed in June 2020. So when Ruby alleges that she was led astray by her lovely business partner, this is actually what happened long before Jodie came on the picture. They had controversies, shall we say. So if you didn't think that all this so far is bad enough, we have an article here from October 2021, which is just a little over 2 years ago, and it was from Yahoo. It was Yahoo Entertainment, and they had an interview, I think, with Ruby Frankie. I know. It says here, Ruby Frankie was at her Springville, Utah home baking sourdough bread when Child Protective Services came knocking on her door. She and her family had just returned from a camping trip in the summer of 2020, and after cleaning up the gear and sending her husband off to work, she plunked her youngest daughter Eve at the kitchen table, gave her a puzzle and a granola bar, and started kneading dough. I remember that morning very well, Frankie told The Wrap, which is Yahoo. These officers, they were two ladies. They said there had been several complaints about child abuse and child neglect. Could they come in and spend some time? See, so when people say, oh, why didn't they do something sooner, or why didn't authorities get involved sooner, or why didn't people complain sooner? This all happened. This has been going on for years, and yet nothing happened and nothing was done to protect the kids, which eventually led to what we've had recently. It goes on to say the officers hovered for a couple of hours, surveying Frankie's spacious home just south of Provo, poking around the pantry and other areas, and interviewing each of Frankie's 6 kids separately. When they finally finished, no charges were filed. Indeed, according to Frankie, the CPS officers were so impressed with her parenting skills, before leaving they supposedly asked for child rearing tips. Oh yes, I'm sure. But the thing is, I don't think that was actually the case, right? This is like the family vlogger MO. They always portray, oh yeah, CPS were so impressed with us that they just wanted our tips. They needed tips on how to bring up their own children because we were doing such a stand-up job. You know, they wouldn't say that. They would just they take the notes away and then just get on with it, right? I don't believe that for a second. There's so many family vlogging parents that will say this just to put their point across. No, didn't happen. They both said they were going to go home and make some changes on how they were parenting, she claimed. Oh, yeah. I'm sure, they thought it was a brilliant idea to, allow your 5-year-old to go to school hungry without any food. They thought that was a brilliant tip. Oh, Jesus Christ, I wonder who's working for the CPS then. I really do, if that's the case. Frankie never did discover who called in that complaint to CPS, but it shouldn't be too hard to figure out. After all, the list of suspects is only about 2 million subscribers long. For the last 6 years, Ruby, 39, her husband Kevin, 42, and their 6 kids have been the stars of 8 Passengers, one of the most popular and controversial homegrown family video series on YouTube. The show, which details the Frankies' sometimes mundane, sometimes wildly dramatic daily lives, has been clicked on more than 1 billion times, attracting millions of subscribers who see the videos as an inspirational peek into the lives of a loving, devoutly Mormon brood as they deal with common household glitches like forgotten school lunches and sibling rivalries. Okay, right, no. This article here, the reporter, I don't know if they intended to just glibly mention the fact that 8 Passengers were dealing with forgotten school lunches, but what that actually was an act of abuse, right? It was because Ruby Frankie sent her 5-year-old child to school without lunch, and when it was discovered she had no lunch, she refused to take anything into school. She said to the teacher, do not give my child food, right? Do not. She actually said that. Do not give my child food, because she's got to learn the lesson, basically. That is what she said. So when this article says, yeah, common household glitches like forgotten school lunches, it wasn't just that, was it? It wasn't just a forgotten school lunch, and yet we have to take our lunch, and then it was that was ridiculous. So yeah, it's as you can see, these accusations, these things have been going on. People have called CPS many times on them, and it's been a thing for a long, long time.
My choice to live in fear of the world has created a great vulnerability and a blind spot for me, where I have broken hearts and I've caused people to suffer and I have betrayed sacred trust. Watching my community respond to my charges with justice and mercy and grace and love is all the more evidence to me how wrong I've been. This world is full of really good people. And finally, I'm sorry for twisting God's word and distorting his doctrines. My greatest desire is to stand in his court someday spotless and confident. And Judge Walton, I know that standing before you today is a necessary step towards that end. Thank you to you and your staff for facilitating my opportunity to take accountability and to answer for my charges.
She's actually thanking the judge and the staff of the courtroom for facilitating the opportunity. It's not a conference, they didn't, try and fit you in and try and give you the opportunity to mend your ways. No, it is a court of punishment for your actions, all right, Ruby?
I am humbled and willing to serve a prison sentence as long as it takes to continue unraveling all of the misinformation I have believed and bought, swallowed, and acted out, and for my family to heal and for the community to heal. And I understand this is going to take time. I'm committed to continuing my learning until all of my toxic layers are shed, and I am ready to re-enter as a contributing member of our beautiful society. Thank you, Judge Walton.
So as we can see, that was a beautiful speech, thanking all the members of the jury, thanking the members of the courtroom, thanking the police officers, the hospital staff, the members of the church and everything. It was brilliant. That will go down in legend, if nothing else, right? I know, it will. Right, but all in all, though, it was a load of shit, right? I can't say if she was genuine or not, right? I have my opinions, but what I can say is that the only thing she was talking about, if she was indeed truly sorry, right? If she was indeed thankful for everything that's happened, everything that she's talking about, the only things she's talking about are the things that happened in the past year or so with her and Jodie, right? Those are the only things that she's mentioning here, and the only things she's sorry for, right? She's not sorry for all the years of torment she put her kids through. She's not sorry about any of that, right, at all, because otherwise she would mention that. She actually doesn't think that that way of thinking is wrong. She doesn't think that. So how did Jodie get on? That's the question, right? We're going to quickly look over that because it wasn't quite a very long one and she didn't really cover herself in glory at all. So let's have a look to see what she got up to.
After being caught, Ms. Hildebrandt has shown little to no remorse for her actions. In telephone conversations that will be provided in full to the Board of Pardons and Parole, and which she knew to be recorded, she's repeatedly claimed that she is the victim and the children are the perpetrators. She has gone so far as to say that the things said in this proceeding and covered by the media today will be full of lies.
So what they're saying there is that during the course of Jodie being in prison, she's made phone calls to unknown people that she has said and suggested that she is innocent and that the children are the perpetrators and the ones that are causing all this, and it's basically blaming the kids for what happened to them and what's happening to her. It's nothing to do with what she did. So when she is pleading guilty now, it's not because she has any remorse. It's because she wants a lesser sentence, presumably, and she's up against a brick wall right now because Ruby was going to testify against her. She had no option out of this. She blames the kids for some reason.
The combination of three factors make Ms. Hildebrand a significant threat to the community. First, the severity of the abuse she caused to be inflicted on young children. Second, her attitude that everything she did was justified and that she is being wrongfully imprisoned. And third, her training as a therapist and aptitude for using online resources to convince others to follow her guidance.
So those three things are the things that really need to be remembered when the sentencing comes up and when she gets a bigger, longer sentence than Ruby. As much as you want Ruby to go down for as long as possible, Jodi is the real danger. She inflicted these really horrible things on those kids. But the big thing is that she doesn't believe that she did anything wrong. She believes she was justified in doing what she did, and she still believes that she was justified in doing what she did, right? Those are the two important things, because if she was let out, she would be a danger to people in general. She's shown a consistent pattern over many years of doing this. She did the exact same thing to her own niece years ago. She has been doing this for years and years and years. Finally, she's been caught doing it. And now, finally, we have an opportunity to make sure she never does it again.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will be brief. As is always the case in cases that come before courts, there are two sides to every case. And and even in a case like this, that remains the case. There are many allegations regarding these two individuals, Ms. Franke and my client, Ms. Hildebrand. The only facts in this case that are adjudicated facts are those set forth in the plea agreement that she entered into freely and knowingly and voluntarily. Those facts, those adjudicated facts, are significant. They certainly provide a basis for the pleas and provide a basis for the stipulated sentence in this case. My experience with Ms. Hildebrand is that she is not the person that she has been portrayed to be.
Isn't she? She's just a delight, is she? Is she an absolute delight? I can imagine how she is in real life. She's an absolute delight. Not at all like she's been portrayed by that nasty media or those nasty kids, right? They're portraying her in a nasty way, aren't they? Now, if you needed any other convincing, right, I'm gonna draw out this old clip that I've played a few times before. Some of you may not have seen it, but this just shows how she was. This was before the abuse, obviously.
Hello and welcome to Moms of Truth with Jodi and Ruby. I'm Jodi Hildebrand. I have an impassioned request for you. I have come on, this is my second time, to ask you with so much fervor and humility. We need your help. Those of you who are liking, who feel like this is super helpful, who feel like you're a part of our community, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. We have almost 9,000 people on Moms of Truth in almost 4 months. It's unbelievable. My point is we're growing very rapidly. And when people show up and they're aggressive and they're wanting to attack, we invite them off. We invite them to see truth. They don't want to see truth. We invite them off. And many of you have said, thank you. Thank you very much for taking them off. You're welcome. Absolutely. We don't want that kind of nasty aggression on Moms of Truth. We want it to be a place where we can have dialogue around principles of truth. Well, those people, because they get so mad that they can't control what's going on, they turn right around and go give us a 1-star review. Now, we've made it really easy for them to do that because we've been trying to make it really easy for you to give us a 5-star review. We've put the link on the bottom of every single post. So all you have to do is click the link and give us a 5-star review. That's as simple as it is. but you guys aren't doing it. I think we've had 5 people from the last time I asked, which was probably a month ago. 5 out of almost 9,000, 5 people give us a review that's 5. And we've had probably 50 to 75 people give us 1-star reviews. So we started with a 5, and in 3 months we're down to like a 2. Now, do I care about what Google says about me? I don't care at all. However, people who are coming, they care. Google has a lot of clout in people's mind for some strange reason. I do not know why, but it does. So when people see, oh, that's 2 stars. Ooh, I got to stay with them because it's 2 stars. You and I know there's no truth in that, but they don't. So I'm asking you, please, 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 to help your other brothers and sisters know that this is a safe, principled, honest, responsible, and humble platform. Please, will you please take 5 minutes and go give us a 5-star? We could overrun, we could completely blow up the Google review if 1,000 of you would do it. And there's 9,000 of you on here.
Yeah, that was Jodie getting irate at people giving her 1-star reviews, you know. Justified, obviously, but she didn't think so.
But having said that, she has accepted responsibility in this case. She has entered into this plea agreement with a stipulated sentence of 4 consecutive sentences. She did that at the time she entered into the plea agreement, knowing that that would be the court's order. She is before the court today, knowing that that will be the court's order, and she fully accepts that. She accepts responsibility, and she accepts the consequences for her conduct. And we will submit it to the court on the stipulated agreement.
Just look at her face, though. It's just a face of, like, it's nothing. It hasn't changed the entire time she's been sat in court. Just literally staring into space. I don't have a clue what the hell she's thinking. It's just like, there's nothingness.
Mr. Terry, you suggested that there are 2 sides to every case. I generally agree with you. Ms. Hildebrand didn't make a statement to AP&P in the course of the pre-sentence investigation report.
So the judge is saying that apparently there's supposed to be 2 sides to the story, but Jodie hasn't submitted her side of the story, so there actually isn't. There's only the 1 side of the story.
Correct.
Why did she not make a statement?
She wanted to reserve her right to make a statement before the court today, and she has a brief statement that she wants to read, Your Honor.
Okay.
And
all right. Ms. Hildebrand? Go ahead.
I sincerely love these children. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally. One of the reasons I did not go to trial is that I did not want them to emotionally relive the experience which would have been detrimental to them. My hope and prayer is that they will heal and move forward to have beautiful lives.
There's no emotion there, though. Oh, yeah, I love these kids. I really love them, you know. I cause them so much harm, but yeah, I'm not going to mention the fact that I caused them the harm. God, no. God, that'll put me in lots of hot water. No. I wish them all the best, though, in their future endeavours, yeah? Yeah, I wish them all the best in their future endeavours, and hopefully they can heal in time. You know, but don't mention who caused them the pain. God, no.
I am willing to submit to what the state feels would be an appropriate amount of time served to make retribution as an outcome.
in answer to your question, Your Honor, I knew that whatever she might say to the author of the pre-sentence report would probably sound hollow and self-serving, and perhaps it does today. But I know that my client, in the statement that she makes to the court today, that statement is absolutely sincere.
Do you? You know that the woman who you met just this last year is, sincere in her apology, non-apology. It wasn't an apology, was it? It wasn't even an admission of guilt, that statement. It was I hope the kids get better, right? Didn't even say it with emotion. I hope the children get better, and I'm not going to admit that I was the one that did it, right? She didn't say that she was guilty. She just said that I hope that they get better. She didn't say who caused them the pain. Did not sound very convincing to me. If you have practiced this pre-trial, I think you may want to rehearse it a little bit better for next time.
Does Ms. Hildebrandt recognize that it's her behavior that caused the harm to the children that she's referred to in her statement?
Your Honor, she recognizes that she was, along with Ms. Frankie, that she made decisions with respect to the discipline of those children that were wrong.
Am I actually hearing this correctly? The lawyer here is doing a terrible job, an absolute terrible job. The judge has asked him, plain and clear, does your client understand that it was her actions that caused the pain to the children, right? It's a very straightforward question that she should be able to answer because she's admitting guilt and everything. But her lawyer has just said, yeah, she admits, along with Ruby Frankie, it wasn't just her, don't forget, that's what he's saying. Along with Ruby, they made decisions, poor decisions on parenting and discipline. That is her. Oh my word! Seriously, is that what he actually just said? They made combined parenting decisions surrounding discipline that caused the problem. He's actually calling it discipline. He's a fucking joke. He should be struck off. I'm sorry, but is he actually listening to his own words? He himself is calling it discipline. There was no fucking discipline. What's wrong with you? Taping 10-year-old arms together, the wrists up, tying them up, stringing it. All those things that happened, that is not fucking discipline, honestly.
That caused harm to those children. She fully recognizes that and accepts responsibility for that.
And yet, she hasn't once said that. Isn't that ironic? Pre-sentencing, she had the opportunity to submit her thoughts on the subject, but she didn't because it would sound hollow, right? It would sound like it wouldn't sound sincere, basically. So she didn't submit those words pre-sentence. She has the opportunity to say her piece now, and again she doesn't because again it would sound hollow, or maybe these words sound hollow, and she hasn't said anything along the lines of, I'm sorry for what I did to those kids. Nothing. As much as you may hate Ruby, at least she showed some remorse. At least she showed some emotion. At least she said the actual words out loud. Jodie, I don't think she's even capable. Okay? I don't think she is. She's never had any emotion inside her at all. If you've watched her videos for the last few years like I have, you know that she is very much a cold woman, right? Very cold. She doesn't have emotions. She doesn't have feelings towards people. She doesn't have like a warm-hearted nature behind her at all. She is a very cold, very hard, very manipulative, very, very bad person. Evil, some might say.
All right. Anything else?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Hildebrandt, this This circumstance is tragic. It's largely, of course, of your making. By any measure, your conduct in this case was disastrous for these children. Adults are supposed to protect children. Adults with specialized training in particular are supposed to protect children. You didn't do that in this case. In this case, you terrorized children, and the results have been tragic. It's what happened to these children, and your philosophy in dealing with them, frankly, seems detached from reality or any objective standard of decency or even common sense. And the court finds that it is appropriate that you serve a prison sentence. The court finds under the statute, Utah Code 76-3-401, that given the gravity and circumstances of the offenses, the number of victims, and the history and character and needs of the defendant, that consecutive sentences are appropriate. The court imposes 4 1 to 15-year sentences to be again served consecutively for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse.
So I thought the judge's summing up was perfect. Absolutely spot on. Now, I'll just sum up and conclude with my words, and that is to say that as much as people hate Ruby, and rightly so, it was her kids that she brought into the situation, that she allowed to be abused, that she helped abuse, right? She did all that. So there's no getting away from it, and she should be punished appropriately. On the other hand, Jody, the master manipulator, and yes, she did manipulate Ruby to a certain extent, but she didn't require a lot of manipulation because Ruby's natural personality was already sort of that way inclined anyway. So Jody just took what was already there and brought it to the surface and made it, right? However, I would say that Ruby is maybe a danger to her own family, but nobody else, right? The only people that stand to get hurt by Ruby being out of jail would be her family. And probably not in the sense of like tying the kids up, right? It's probably more like, you know, letting them down, emotional pain and stuff like that, right? However, Jody, she poses a huge risk to everybody, right? Don't think she's got a close family or any family, but she poses a risk to everybody. Whereas Ruby poses a risk only to her immediate family, Jody poses a risk to everybody. So that is where the difference lies. And that is why I think Ruby should not only get a lesser sentence, I think she will get a lesser sentence. But either way, they both stand to spend a good portion of the next years in jail. So that's good, and a good outcome, I think. I don't know when it is. We'll find out exactly how long they get, if we do. I'm not entirely sure how it works. All I know is that it goes before a board of parole, and then they decide in a few weeks or months' time. So anyway, I hope you've learned something here and taken away what you can, because I try to put my own point and my perspective across, and hopefully it's come across in a decent way, and I haven't upset anybody or anything like that. It's just a very sad case, which has got a lot of people very emotive about, and rightly so. We'll keep an eye on things, see how things go, and if there's anything you want me to tell you or answer or need any information, ask me. I'll try and find out if I can find out. Until next time, please give this video a massive thumbs up, comment all of your thoughts about it down below, and subscribe to the channel if you are new and if you want more of these videos. Until next time, have a brilliant day, take care of yourselves, and bye bye.